Hi everybody, it's Cindy from Ideas2. Welcome back to our channel. Today I have a very simple project I'd like to share with you. And it's this little envelope clutch that you probably have all the supplies for in your house. It's not overly time consuming, a very simple project. And if you've watched any of our videos recently, I've done quite a few envelope projects. I have been trying to use things I have in the house, and I have so many envelopes, and so I've been trying to come up with different ways of using envelopes. I've watched other people's projects and videos to see what other people do with their envelopes and kind of modified their ideas. And this little clutch is what I'm working on right now. Even though I'm not really big on making New Year's resolutions, I find resolutions to be rather vague, and if a resolution is vague, you can't, you won't reach it. So, usually every year on my birthday, I set a goal of something I want to do during that year, instead of resolutions in January. But this year I decided I want to do more random acts of kindness and get out more happy mail to crafters and in groups that I belong to on Facebook, and of course our Ideas2 Facebook channel. So that's my goal with this project, is to get a number of these little clutches made to go out in happy mail next week. So this is the project. It's just a two-fold, a bifold, and it has a big pocket here, three smaller ones here, a junk journal here in the middle, and over here I put another little notebook. So very simple. I put a Velcro closure on this one to keep it closed, and this still needs to be embellished. I don't overly embellish anything. I don't like things that make it hard to write, things that are three-dimensional or hanging, too many things hanging out of the bottom. That's not quite my style. But I do like to have a little something, and so this still needs to be embellished. But I thought before I did that, I would maybe make a couple more and then embellish everything all at once. So I turned the camera on so you could see kind of how I made this. So what you need for this is two envelopes, and they really can be any size. I'm using, I believe this is A4 size, so that would be about 7 1/4 inches tall by 5 1/4 inches wide. And it doesn't matter the kind of envelope. This one has a fairly deep V. It doesn't matter. It is going to be up to you how you embellish it. Anyway, so whatever you happen to have in the house is fine. Don't, I picked these up on Amazon, and they came with some cards, some blank cards, and I've been using the cards for other things, and I'm using the envelopes to make projects. And so that's what you need for your base, and then some kind of paper. And I have a couple of different stacks here that I may use. I'm probably going to use this one, and it's a kit that I just bought, and I don't remember who it's from, but I will look it up and put the link down below. So this is just some of the different things that came with this kit, and I just printed it out on 24-pound printer paper. Nothing nothing too heavy, but heavy enough. It's got a decent quality. So I have this stack here, which is kind of what I'm leaning towards, and I didn't bother to coffee stain or tea stain it or anything. And then I have this out as well, bees obviously, and sunflowers, and this is part of the same digital kit that I used to make this one. And this would be really pretty with marbled paper, wrapping paper, whatever you happen to have. You definitely don't need to go out and buy anything special for this project. Fact is, now that I've thought about it, I may need to make one or two using digital paper. We just started making some digitals, and Betsy added a whole bunch of gorgeous digitals of our marbled paper that we made last Christmas. We did pages and pages and dozens of marbled papers. So I may need to make one of these with our marbled paper. So I have this one out just because I haven't put it away from the other project, but I'm kind of leaning towards this one. So you'll just need some papers that are coordinated. They don't need to be a kit. If you have scrapbooking paper, that would work great. Wrapping paper, whatever you happen to have. I do not, however, recommend cardstock, because you will be putting so many different layers of paper on the envelopes that you may find that it becomes very bulky very fast. So I don't necessarily recommend cardstock, but if that's what you have, you know, go ahead and give it a try. So I'll just move those off to the side. For this project, I'm going to use Fabri-Tac because it's my go-to glue. But if you don't have Fabri-Tac, you can use, certainly use whatever you happen to have. Glue stick, I have Uhu, that's my preferred glue stick. You can get this almost at a lot of, it's not almost anywhere, it's not that common in the States. But I got this on Amazon. This is my last one, so that's on my shopping list. Art glitter glue would work fine. You know, whatever you happen to have. I just really like Fabri-Tac because it holds everything. You know, it's really made for fabric, obviously, with a name like Fabri-Tac, but it works really well on paper and holding just about anything to paper or to fabric. So I'm putting glue on the inside of one of the flaps, and I'm not going too close to the edge, too close. I don't want it to ooze out all over the place. I'm kind of a menace with anything with crafting. I'm not the neatest crafter. And I'm going to glue that to the front of this other envelope. And I'm putting it close to the fold, but not butting it right into it, because if you get, you know, right into that fold, it's not going to fold well when you close it. And one of the things I really like about Fabri-Tac is that it dries quickly, but not so quickly that you can't move things around if you get it off-centered a little bit. So there's that. Really, before you go any further, you need to decide how you're going to do your pockets. And this one I'm going to leave open here. I like, you know, having the deep V here allows you to actually be able to use it without tearing anything. This one I'm going to cover, but on my exemplar, there's a big pocket that I made just by slitting the top of that envelope. And I think I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing for this one. I like having a big tag in there because it allows, the tag adds stability. So to do that, I'm going to make the barest, absolutely smallest cut on the top of the envelope on the left side. I tried slitting it on the other one with like a letter opener. It didn't work quite well. It kind of had a jagged edge. So using the scissors I think worked better. And obviously this is not going to hold very well, so I'm going to add some glue to fact is I'm going to just go ahead and completely cut through that, and then I'm going to glue it down just that little bit. The tag I'm putting in there won't be so big that that will matter. So there's our basic construction. So I'm going to start then by covering the outside. And you don't need to worry about this. You're going to cover it up. And you can sew on this or not, as you choose. And, you know, I'm calling this a clutch, which kind of implies that this is the top, if this was like a clutch purse, right? But when you're writing in it, it definitely has an up and a down. So I'm going to probably make all of my papers kind of fit that, you know, 7 inches tall, 5 inches wide. And so we're going to do that one first. And so I'm going to use this set. You know, if you put it the other direction, you will save paper. You can get, you know, 2 pieces out of this if you're going the other direction, but this one, if I want the flower to go up and down, I'm going to be wasting, well, you know, I guess kind of wasting. We paper crafters pretty much keep all of our scraps, right, and find some other use for them. So I'm going to cut my paper 7 inches by 5 inches, and I want to make sure I get the whole flower on there. And I'll go ahead and trim the white edges. Unfortunately, my printer doesn't allow me to print to the very edge of the paper. I thought it did when I bought it, and the quality of it is so good that I'm not going to get a new, and it was expensive enough. I'm not going to get a new one, but that is something I don't appreciate. And so 7 inches tall, and I think that'll be really pretty centered on there. So I'm going to leave a little bit all the way around of the craft envelope, and I think I'm going to go ahead and ink the edges. I like the vintage look, and so I pretty much ink everything. This is really pretty paper, that daisy on there. And yesterday, day before, was the solstice, so the days are getting longer. Not that it's noticeable yet, but and it should not put me in the mood for flowers. We haven't even had snow yet. So I'm going to put that on there, and before I do that, I think I'm going to go ahead and sew around the edges just using brown thread. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Okay, so I just sewed around the edges. This is literally just decorative. If you don't have a sewing machine, or you want a clean line look, absolutely feel free to not sew. And the reason I did this on the paper rather than gluing it down and then sewing the entire envelope is just because you know, when you sew on paper, the underside of whatever you're sewing, the needle punches the paper through, and it's kind of, oh, I don't know what you would, you know, if there's a name for it. I call it annoying, whatever it is called. And so it's kind of raised and kind of bumpy. And you know, if you're using paper with a white core, it is very white, and you can see that on, because I did sew on the exemplar, and so the underside, you can see, I don't know if you can see that, is ridged and bumpy, and I had to go over it with ink to kind of get rid of the white, extra whiteness of it. And so I decided for this one, I'm just going to go ahead and sew on the paper rather than sewing the paper to the envelope, because the sewing literally does nothing. It does not add any, it's going to be sturdy enough. You can see it's not going to come apart if you don't sew, so that's not a big deal. As long as I'm doing the outside, I'm going to go ahead and do this as well. And I just need to decide if I want to have another flower on the outside, which I might, because whatever I'm putting on the inside is going to be covered by pockets and things. So I need to I don't think I'll go with these. I don't know, what do you guys think? Kind of leaning towards this one. This will make a really good background, and I think I have it narrowed down anyway to one of these two. So hopefully you know, I didn't make any decisions before I started this, so hopefully you're okay with watching the process, but this is kind of how I work. So I just need to decide if I want this one, or this one is the same color family as the other one. So I think I'm going to go with this one. Actually, I don't think so, because it's going to cut off part of that, and this one I can cut here and I'll get both flowers, so I think I'm going to go with this one. All right, so I'm doing this 5 inches wide, and so I'll get both flowers on there for the width. And so I don't want to do that. I think I'm going to cut part from the bottom and part from the top. This right at the top. I'm going to trim this before I cut any more, so I don't forget. I'm going to take a little bit off of the bottom. That way I'll get both flowers. my scraps. Yeah, I like that. Let's do a quick ink around the edges. I need ink. Got some in my Amazon cart right now, but I have to wait till payday before I can get more craft supplies. No paper though. I'm going on a paper fast this year. I'm not letting myself buy any more paper. We'll see how long I hold out on that resolution. So I'm going to go ahead and sew this as well before I glue it down. All right, so I have sewn around the edge of this one as well, and I already glued it down because you didn't need to see me glue that. So I'm ready to flip it over and start working on the inside, and I'm going to do this side first. And I'm going to need 2 pieces for this one. I'm going to actually piece this one so that I mean, you could cover it and, you know, leave a pocket there. And if you put something, you know, a card in there with a tab that you can pull out, that shouldn't be a problem. But my concern is if I'm using just, you know, printer paper and, you know, you have this completely covered, it would not take long for me, because I know myself, to rip the paper or, you know, really, you know, muck up the edges. So instead of doing it that way, which would be easier and would be quicker, I'm actually going to do this in 2 pieces and have one piece here and then another piece I'm going to tuck on the inside. So I'm going to go ahead and maybe use this one. I don't know about that. It doesn't really matter what I use, but if I use this, it'll take part. It'll be kind of like this, which I think I'm going to do actually. So I'm going to cut this to be now, because I'm flipping it the other direction, it needs to be 7 inches wide and 5 inches tall. But I have all of this white I need to trim off as well. Which I'm going to do first so that I don't accidentally cut wrong, because I've considered the white part as in my measurements. So just trim that off because I know myself. All right, so I need it to be 7 inches. And I think I'm okay with that, cutting that. And then maybe 5 inches. Actually going to cut off a little bit from the bottom. That will give me all of the flowers. And this is all going to be cut off anyway, so I don't need to worry about any of the other fun things that were on the paper. So make sure that I measured right. Now, to make sure that I get the shape correctly, I'm going to slide this in the envelope. Make sure I have it lined up. And then I'm going to trace around here with pencil and then cut it out. And let's see, I had a pencil earlier. There it is. And it will cut off part of my flower, but I'm okay with that. So and then I'm going to just cut around my pencil mark, and that will give me the right shape. And it's way easier than trying to eyeball it and try to figure out my angles and whatnot. So that's how I do that. And that should be perfect. All right, a little bit of pencil markings on there, but not too much, not too bad. And I'm going to go ahead and ink and sew, and before we move on to the next step. All right, so I sewed around the edge and I glued this down, and you could leave it like this and not put anything underneath here, or and I think that would be fine. I decided to go ahead and use one of my paper scraps, and I inked just the top edge, and I sewed just the top edge, and I'm going to go ahead and glue that on the inside like this, so that kind of to keep some continuity, I guess. But I think it looks fine without having anything there. So if that is your preference, then go ahead and leave it. And you can see I'm just using a scrap, and so it's 7 inches by 2 3/4 inches. But it could be, you could do another 5 by 7, or 7 by 7 by 4, or whatever you have for scraps. I don't think that having it bigger or smaller is going to be a problem for putting things in or taking things out. As on the other one, my exemplar, I just use a scrap as well, and have taken that little notebook in and out a number of times and not had any problems with the paper getting caught or anything like that. So I think that's looking pretty good. On this side, I'm going to put another full piece of 5 by 7, and there's going to be a junk journal in here, so if since I've got this going vertical, and this is, they're not going the same direction, it's not going to be a problem, because with a journal in there, it's not, it'll break it up. And for me, I think the pattern is muted enough. I don't have an issue with that, having them not go the same direction. So because I want to put a big card in here, I'm not going to, glue all, put glue here. Otherwise, this will be as big as I can put in there. So what I'm going to do is, put a bead of glue here, and then here, and on the paper. And so if you are worried about, putting glue in the wrong spots, you could, well, I can't anymore because I've glued there. You could slip your paper in and trace on there, again, if you wanted to, or if you have your scrap from when you cut this out, if you still have that around, you could use that actually on the flip side to show you where to put your glue so you don't accidentally get glue on on there. So I had my scrap, so I will make sure that the glue will just be everywhere except inside that V. Of course, if you don't want the top pocket like I had on mine, and you would prefer to have on, maybe leave it open on the left side, then you're going to want to take that into consideration when you glue. But I want a top pocket. It doesn't matter the order you do these, but you don't want to forget anything. Now what I'm going to do to make sure that I didn't accidentally get glue in the wrong spot, I usually just take my ruler and stick it in the pocket and kind of swish it around in there a little bit to make sure that there's no glue where there shouldn't be any. And this is pretty much going to be covered up anyway. I'm going to put some pockets there. So what paper you put on there doesn't much matter. But, I like everything to match and be coordinated. So, well, not match. I don't like matchy-matchy, but I do definitely like things to be coordinated. So that's our basic instruction. Now we just need to do something about the flap. And I'm going to put something on both the inside and the outside. And this is a good place to use scraps. I think the scraps should all be exactly the right size. And the inside doesn't matter really as much as the outside. So I'm going to do the outside first. I want to make sure it's something that coordinates with that. And so I think I might just go with a neutral. I like this one better. I like the print. I like that the print is darker on that. I think I'm going to put the flower on the inside, or as much of the flower as I can. And this one on the outside, I think that's what I'm going to go with. And maybe do it so that the two will be on there. So the way that I do this is to trace and cut. I'm going to put this right on the edge, and I'm using the fold as my guideline. And I'm doing it this way. When you cut it out, it will actually be bigger than the envelope, bigger than the flap. So I cut on to the inside of the trace line. If you make a lot of these, if you were to, bulk make, and I probably will make quite a few of these because I intend to get these in the mail in racks. You might want to make templates. so that you don't have to you know, measure every time. And it looks like I need to trim a little bit off this side. I think that looks good. And then I need to decide which, on the inside doesn't matter as much, as far as, you know, quite honestly, it really doesn't matter much at all. But I think I want to have the flower on the inside. Get rid of my scraps. If I make too many of these, I will definitely have to make templates. I think when you bulk make, it's nice to be able to, you know, to have some shortcuts and not having to measure. I think make things go much faster. All right, there's my envelope flap, and I'm going to make sure that I don't have any pencil markings, and then I'm going to ink and sew, and then our basic instruction will be done. All right, so I went ahead and sewed the edges of both pieces of paper on the flaps, and you will probably notice that the one on the inside is not the one I cut out on camera just a few minutes ago, because I accidentally did it upside down. So make sure that you have the paper go in the right direction. If you're using a pattern, I did not do that, and so my flower wound up upside down, but that's okay because it's still a nice neutral on there, and it's not going to detract from, you know, from the other pictures. So this is our basic instruction. We have currently one big pocket here and a big pocket here, but I want to have some smaller pockets here, even though I hate to cover up this picture, it's so pretty. What I'm going to do is put 3 pockets on here. So to do that, what I did was I wanted to use cardstock rather than just the printer paper. I didn't think it would last very long with things going in and out of the pocket if I just used the printer paper. So what I did was took some plain off-white cardstock. These are scraps that were in my scrap box, and I glued the coordinating paper to this, and you can see I've already sewn and inked, so I just sewed around the top of each of these, and I used my handy dandy medium size, the 1.5 inch circle punch to make a thumb hole on there. And what I'm going to do is sew these 3 together like this to make a long pocket and a medium pocket and a small pocket, so I can put tags or cards in there. And so I'm not going to, you know, glue down the bottoms. I'm just going to sew them together so that the bottom, you know, this gives you some flexibility, or will give me some flexibility until I sew. If I want this to be, the long pocket to be a full 7 inches, I just need to, you know, move this up or down. This piece is 5.5 by 3 1/4. This is 4 by 3 1/4, and this is 2.5 by 3 1/4. and I could easily just sew down the edges and then have pockets that size, or if I want one a little bigger, I just need to, you know, move these a little bit, and I can have different dimensions. So I do recommend gluing them down before sewing, just putting a bead of glue on each side so that stuff doesn't slide around. And just then sew straight down the sides on each of these, and then the bottom, and you've got three nice size pockets. And unfortunately, it's covering up that gorgeous flower, and there's no way for me to put this on here and not cover it up, but you know, I still have lots of flowers, it's okay. So I'm going to go ahead and sew this together and then glue it down, and that'll be it for our construction. So there we go. I sewed around the edges, and so now I have 3 nice pockets to put cards or tags in. So I'm going to go ahead and glue this down. Just on, of course, the 3 sides. To center this in the middle, but towards the bottom. You could make these pockets as wide as you want, or just put 2 pockets or 1 pocket, whatever your preference is. I just prefer for this project to have 3, since I'm putting a big project in here, another big one in there. This gives me 3 little things, you know, a long skinny tag, probably another tag, and then maybe a card or 2 down here in the bottom. So the last thing I'm going to do right now is put the closure on. I'm going to do Velcro, and if I can find my Velcro tabs. And I just have these nice clear Velcro tabs, and they have a pretty strong adhesive on them, so I'm going to just go ahead and use these, and I probably will add some kind of a ribbon or something. And the way I do these is I put them together, and I want the clear on the outside, so I'm going to put that in the center there, and then close it. So you can't even see that one's there. I mean, barely see that. And that will be sturdy enough to keep it closed once I have everything on the inside. So I think that's all we're going to do today on camera. And tomorrow, or well, tomorrow's Christmas Eve and Friday's Christmas, so I probably won't make a video either tomorrow or Thursday. Who knows? I might. I'm not traveling anywhere for Christmas this year because of Miss COVID, and so I'm by myself anyway, so who knows. But this is the basic instruction for what I'm calling a clutch, an envelope clutch. And so the next thing I need to do is embellish and fill the pockets. So this is what it will be like when it's done. And a little bit more embellishment, I think, on there. It's a little plain. So thank you so much for joining me to make this envelope clutch. I hope you give this a try. If you do, take some pictures and post them on our Facebook page. And if you're not a member of our Facebook page, we would love to have you join us on there. We encourage people to post their projects, and Betsy and I post projects and things on there, mostly junk journal related. And If you are not a subscriber, we would love to have you join us. So please hit the subscribe, give us a thumbs up. Positive comments are always appreciated. And thank you so much for joining me today. And have a Merry Christmas, a happy holiday, and I will see you later, everybody. Bye-bye.